Q&A in the park. Question today is from retail, and it is about the first differential prescription. Now, important thing to note here is this is not optometrist advice. Like I always say, it's not prescription advice. It's not any advice at all. We're just having a chat. Rito asks, for my first differential prescription, I will go to my optometrist. Because my eyes are quite different with high astigmatism, I'd like to have some more advice for you, especially regarding the astigmatism. The current prescription is right minus 5.5, cylinder minus 1.25, and left minus 7.75, cylinder minus 2. So there's some general guiding principles that are sometimes helpful. If you have a current prescription that is current and that is accurate, in most cases you can go down by about 1.5 diopters and eliminate astigmatism correction below 1 diopter and replace it with 0.5 diopter of spherical correction. So basically, if your astigmatism is minus 1, you would just add minus 0.5 to your reduced prescription. So if it was minus 5, you'd have a minus 3.5 for a close-up, right? You took off 1.5 diopters. But if you had 1 diopter astigmatism prescription, you add 0.5 to that. So that would be minus 4. Now, this is just kind of a guideline. What you ideally want to do is end up with a differential prescription that is the same in left versus right eye relatively to your future normalized prescription. So that no matter which pair of glasses you put on, the relative correction is the same. Just the distance changes, right? So if you have a minus 3.5 for close-up and you have a minus 5 for distance, let's just say in both eyes, then the relative focal plane change is the same for both eyes. What you want to avoid is changing the focal plane for the left eye and for the right eye differently for close-up than for distance. So ideally, you're just increasing the size of the bubble for distance and decreasing the size of the bubble for close-up. The best way to do this is with an optometrist, if they're supportive and if they let you do a close-up prescription, or with a test lens kit at home. The first one can be a little bit of a guess, and usually the first one only lasts you a month or two, 4 to 6 weeks, before you either want to make some more changes to it or before you need to reduce it again because your eyes have adopted and are improving. But in the most cases, this is close. When the astigmatism is higher, it's a little bit more difficult. Like a minus 2 astigmatism, you might end up keeping about half of it in some cases, but not always. So here again, a test lens kit is really handy. And getting these prescriptions right is really helpful in avoiding headaches and fatigue and eye strain. Ideally, an optometrist would help here. The problem often is that in many jurisdictions, optometrists either aren't allowed to prescribe you lower, or it's not something that is necessarily always taught in schools. So it's kind of hit or miss. Hopefully this helps. I try to answer these questions on a case-by-case basis in the forum, like I will for this particular post. This is just kind of a guideline, but again, you do want to take these things fairly seriously. You don't want to change prescriptions a lot. Like most of the time, when I have students who aren't improving well, it's because they just take half of the advice and then they wing the rest of it. And you don't really want to wing prescriptions. You also don't want to wear these prescriptions for driving. You want to have 20/20 correction, and you want to follow your local laws, obviously. I'll answer this particular question for Rito in more detail in the forum. So if you have forum access, head over to Rito's latest post. That's it for the Park QA. See you in the next one. like to go to the park for a few kilometer bike ride and a little bit of jungle gym time.